I won $750,000 while 8 months pregnant, and when I refused to give it to my husband's mother, he beat me into premature labor while his sister filmed it. My husband Darren hit me so hard across the face that I fell backward into our kitchen table, 8 months pregnant with twins, and my water broke on impact while his sister Renee filmed the whole thing on her iPhone, smiling, and his mother Norma stood 3 feet away, saying, "Teach her a lesson," in a voice so calm it sounded like she was ordering coffee. The 911 call I made 17 minutes later from our front porch in Plaza Midwood, Charlotte, after they'd literally dragged me by my hair and thrown me onto the concrete steps, locked the door, and stolen the $750,000 lottery ticket I'd won 72 hours earlier, would result in 3 arrests, emergency C-sections for both babies at 33 weeks, and a criminal trial where the video Renee had posted to Facebook before deleting it became Exhibit A in a domestic violence case that the prosecutor called one of the most clear-cut examples of assault I've seen in 15 years. But on that Sunday afternoon, bleeding and contracting on cold concrete with my phone clutched in shaking hands, all I could think was, I told Darren about the lottery ticket because I thought it would save us, and instead it revealed exactly who he'd been all along. My name is Marion Cole. I went back to my maiden name after the divorce finalized in March 2021, and I'm 31 now, but when this started, I was 28 and had been married for exactly 13 months to a man I thought I knew. Darren Reed was an ASE-certified mechanic at a Firestone on Monroe Road, came home smelling like motor oil and tire rubber, seemed solid in the way that mattered after my parents Patrick and Diana died in a car accident in March 2019 and left me their house in Dilworth, and a grief so enormous I couldn't function. We'd been dating 8 months when they died. Drunk driver, red light, my mother killed instantly, and my father lasting 6 hours before I had to authorize removing life support. And Darren showed up to the funeral in a borrowed suit, held my hand through the whole service, sat with me on my parents' porch while I cried so hard I vomited into my mother's rose bushes. "I've got you," he kept saying. "I'm not going anywhere." 6 months later, we were married at the courthouse, and I moved into his apartment in Plaza Midwood because I couldn't bear to live in my parents' house, couldn't walk through rooms that still smelled like my mother's lavender soap and my father's coffee. The pregnancy was March 2020, unplanned, discovered when I took a clear blue test in our cramped bathroom on March 9th and watched 2 pink lines appear while the exhaust fan hummed. I told Darren that night and he smiled, this genuine, surprised smile, and said, "We're really doing this?" And for 72 hours it felt like we'd be okay. Then he told his mother, and Norma's first response was, "You can't afford a baby," followed by, "Are you sure it's yours?" Which should have been a red flag the size of a billboard, but I was too grateful not to be alone to see it. His sister Renee, 26 and living with Norma, despite working sporadically as a hairstylist, laughed and said something about, "Good luck paying for diapers when you can barely pay rent." That's when Norma started showing up unannounced. She'd knock and walk in like she owned the place, inspect things, dishes in the sink, laundry on the couch, and make comments. When I was pregnant with Darren, I kept the house immaculate. "You're eating too much sugar. That's bad for the baby." Every visit ended with some version of, "You're not capable. You're not ready. This is going to be a disaster." I tried talking to Darren about it. "Your mum needs to stop coming over uninvited." But he'd say, "She's just trying to help. She's worried about you." And I'd feel like I was the problem for being bothered. So I started an Etsy shop, mid-April, 8 weeks pregnant, selling handmade baby items, personalized blankets, bibs, little stuffed animals. My mother had taught me to sew, and I needed to prove I wasn't just a burden, that I could contribute even while pregnant. My first sale came April 22nd at 2:33 p.m. A woman in Oregon bought 2 blankets for $58 $47 after fees. I screamed loud enough to scare the neighbor's dog. Darren replied to my excited text 3 hours later with, "Cool." By June, I was making an extra $400, $500 a month. By August, $800. It wasn't huge money, but it was mine, and it felt like taking back control. Darren's reaction to my success was complicated. He'd ask how much I made, and when I told him, he'd nod, but his tone suggested otherwise. If I was sewing when he got home, he'd say, "Still doing that?" Or, "Don't you think you should rest?" Norma was more direct. "You're going to hurt the baby hunched over that sewing machine." The resentment built slowly. Every time I succeeded, every time I proved I could handle pregnancy and work and the business, it made Darren feel smaller, less necessary. The ultrasound on September 14th changed everything. The tech moved the transducer across my belly, taking measurements, then paused and smiled. "Oh, well, babies, actually. Plural. 2 babies. Twins, both looking healthy." I sat in my car in the parking lot for 40 minutes, staring at the ultrasound photos, trying to recalibrate my entire understanding of what was coming. When I told Darren that night, his first response was, "You're kidding." Then, "Jesus Christ, Marion, how are we supposed to afford 2? He grabbed his keys and left, didn't come home until after midnight, smelled like beer and defeat. Norma called the next day. "I heard about the twins. Darren's very stressed, Marion. He can't handle this kind of pressure. I said I was stressed too, that we didn't have a choice. Well, she said, voice tight, maybe you should have thought about that before you got pregnant. I hung up. That was the first time I realized I was alone in wanting these babies. By October, I was 8 months pregnant, enormous, exhausted. Darren had been fired from Firestone on October 9th for showing up late too often and smelling like alcohol on the job. He spent 2 weeks on the couch, barely looking for work, drinking more, spiraling. On October 23rd, a Friday, after a routine doctor's appointment, I stopped at a Quick Trip on Independence Boulevard to get gas. Standing at the counter, I saw the Powerball display. Jackpot, $750,000. It was pure impulse. I never played the lottery, but standing there broke and scared and desperate, I pulled $2 from my wallet and bought a ticket. The machine spit out the numbers: 08, 14, 19, 27, 33. Powerball 11. I folded it into my wallet and forgot about it. The drawing was Saturday night. I didn't watch it. I was in bed by 9:30 most nights. But Sunday morning, October 25th, I was folding baby clothes when the TV news replayed the winning numbers. Something made me pause. I dug out my wallet, found the ticket, checked the numbers. 08, check. 14, check. 19, check. 27, check. 33, check. Powerball 11, check. All 6 numbers. Perfect match. My hand started shaking so badly I dropped the ticket. I picked it up, checked again, pulled up the lottery website on my phone to confirm. I'd won $750,000. After taxes, about $487,000. This was enough for everything: hospital bills, cribs, car seats, diapers, a bigger apartment, breathing room, security. This was the answer to every problem we had. I should have hidden it, should have told no one, waited until after the babies were born, consulted a lawyer. But I was desperate to share good news with my husband, desperate to see him smile. Darren was still asleep at 10:47 a.m., hungover. When he finally emerged at 11:30, I held up the ticket. I bought a lottery ticket on Friday. I just checked the numbers. I won $750,000. He dropped his coffee mug. It shattered on the floor. He stared at me, at the ticket. Are you serious? I showed him my phone, the lottery website. He laughed, slightly hysterical, ran his hands through his hair. Holy shit, we're rich. Then his expression changed, something calculating sliding behind his eyes. We need to tell Mom. That should have been the moment I understood. That should have been when I grabbed the ticket and ran. But I was pregnant and stupid, and still believed his family would be happy for us. Renee arrived first. Darren had texted, "Come over, emergency," 20 minutes later, walking in without knocking. Her eyes went immediately to the ticket in my hand. What's that? When I told her, she grabbed her phone and started texting. Within 10 minutes, Norma was calling. Darren put her on speaker. Renee says Marion won the lottery. Her voice was sharp, disbelieving. Darren replied, and this is the part that made my stomach drop. That's what she says. Not we won, not we're rich, she says. How much? Norma demanded. $750,000 before taxes, I said. $487,000 after. Silence. Then, I'm coming over. Don't do anything until I get there. She arrived in 32 minutes, walked in like she was entering a courtroom, Renee behind her. They all stood around me where I sat on the couch, belly huge, ticket in my hand. Let me see it, Norma said, holding out her hand. I hesitated, then gave it to her. She examined it, then looked at me with an expression I'd never seen. Hunger, calculation, something that made my skin crawl. Do you have any idea what kind of responsibility this is? This money could solve all of Darren's problems, but only if it's managed correctly. You've never handled money before, Marion. You'll waste it. I'm not going to waste it, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This money is for the babies, for their future. The babies, she repeated like the word tasted sour. Darren's babies, you mean? Which makes this Darren's money. That's not how it works. I bought the ticket. Legally, it's mine. The temperature in the room dropped. Darren looked at his mother, at me, and I saw him making a choice, saw him pick a side. Ma, she's right. I'm your husband. What's yours is mine. We should handle this together. I want to handle it together, I said, panic creeping into my voice. But I want to wait until after the babies are born. I want to talk to a financial advisor. No, Norma interrupted. You'll give the ticket to Darren now. He'll claim it. He'll manage it. And if you're good and behave yourself, maybe you'll see some of it. The casual cruelty of it made me laugh, this unhinged sound. Are you serious? You want me to hand over $487,000 to a man who just got fired for drinking on the job? Wrong thing to say. Darren's face went dark. What did you just say? I'm sorry. I just meant, no, say it again. He was walking toward me and I realized for the first time that I was afraid of him. Actually, physically afraid. Give me the ticket, Marion. No, give me the fucking ticket. It's mine. I was crying now, ugly sobbing, one hand on my belly where the babies were moving, agitated. You're refusing to share with your husband and his family, Renee said, and I realized she was filming on her phone, had been filming since I said no. Darren moved fast, grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. Let go! I tried to pull away. He shoved me and I stumbled backward, my hip hitting the arm of the couch. The babies rolled inside me. Strange internal internal tumbling. Please, you're scaring me. Teach her a lesson, Norma said, voice calm, almost pleasant, and Darren hit me. Open hand across the face, hard enough that my vision went white, and I tasted blood when my teeth cut the inside of my cheek. I fell, couldn't catch myself, too pregnant and off balance, and hit the coffee table on the way down, my side slamming into the wooden edge. Pain exploded through my abdomen, sharp and terrible, and then wetness, sudden and warm, flooding down my legs. My water had broken. Oh God, I gasped, trying to sit up, hands going to my belly. The babies, but they weren't listening. Darren was yelling at his mother. What do I do? What do I do? And Norma was yelling back. Find that ticket. It has to be here somewhere. And Renee was still filming, her face lit by the phone screen, smiling. I tried to crawl toward my purse on the kitchen counter, where my phone was, but Renee kicked it out of reach. She grabbed the purse, dumped contents on the floor, wallet, keys, receipts, and there among the debris, the lottery ticket. Darren snatched it up like a trophy. Got it. Good, Norma said. Now get her out of here before she makes an even bigger scene. They dragged me. Norma and Renee grabbed me under the arms. I was dead weight, could barely move, contractions already starting, and hauled me toward the front door. I screamed, begged them to stop, begged Darren to help me, but he just stood there holding the ticket, watching. They opened the door and threw me, onto the concrete porch steps. I landed hard on my side, hands scraping rough surface, and heard the door slam, the deadbolt click. It was 2:13 p.m., 65 degrees and sunny, a perfect fall afternoon. I was 8 months pregnant with twins, bleeding, in labor, locked out of my own home. My phone, I'd had it in my dress pocket earlier, had absent-mindedly tucked it there after checking lottery numbers. With trembling, scraped hands, I reached into my pocket, found it, screen cracked but still working. I pulled it out, smeared blood across the screen trying to unlock it. Contractions were coming every 2 minutes. The wetness between my legs wasn't just amniotic fluid, there was blood, too much blood. I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? My husband, I gasped, barely able to form words. He beat me. I'm pregnant, 8 months pregnant with twins. My water broke. Please, ma'am, where are you? 1847, Pegram Street, Plaza Midwood, apartment 2B. I'm on the front porch. They locked me out. Please hurry. The first responders arrived at 2:19 p.m., 6 minutes that felt like hours. 2 paramedics rushing toward me with a gurney. Ma'am, I'm Travis. This is Nicole. We're going to help you. Nicole pressed a fetal monitor to my belly. 2 heartbeats, rapid but present. Both babies are still with us, she said, voice tight, but we need to move fast. As they loaded me onto the gurney, a police car pulled up. The officer knocked on the apartment door. Charlotte Mecklenburg Police. Open up. Muffled voices inside. Panicked. The door opened a crack. Darren's face pale. Officers, this is a misunderstanding. Step outside, sir. I heard the metallic click of handcuffs. Darren's voice rising in protest. Norma shrieking. You can't arrest him. She's lying. Then the ambulance doors closed and we were moving. We arrived at CMC Main at 2:31 p.m. Dr. Kensington was there in scrubs, face serious. Marion, we're going to do an emergency C-section. Your babies are in distress. You'll be under general anesthesia. Someone put a mask over my face. Count backward from 10. I managed 10, 9, 8 before the world went black. I woke up at 5:47 p.m. in recovery. Everything hurt. A nurse named Jennifer was there immediately. You're okay. You're safe. The surgery went well. The babies, they're alive. Baby A, a boy, 4 pounds 6 ounces, is in the NICU on oxygen. Baby B, another boy, 3 pounds 14 ounces, also NICU. They're small, but they're fighters. 2 boys, alive. That was all that mattered. Officer Sarah Martinez came in to take my statement. She told me Darren had been arrested and charged with assault on a female and assault on an unborn child. Norma and Renee were also in custody. There's video evidence, Martinez said. When we arrested Renee, we seized her phone. The video shows the assault, shows you falling, shows them removing you from the apartment. It's very clear what happened. They took my lottery ticket, I said. We'll need to recover that. It's evidence of motive and it's your property. I told her everything. She wrote it all down. When I finished, she said, what you did, calling 911, giving clear information, despite being in active labor, that probably saved your life and your baby's lives. You did everything right. The next days were a blur. The hospital's social worker helped me file emergency protective orders. The DA sent a prosecutor who said the video was some of the best evidence I've ever seen in a domestic violence case, which is to say, it's horrifying, but legally, it's airtight. The North Carolina Lottery Commission called to say Darren had tried to claim the ticket, but they'd frozen it after police contacted them. I got a lawyer, Patricia Odom, who specialized in domestic violence cases, who filed for divorce and moved to secure the lottery money as my sole property. I was released November 1st. The babies stayed in NICU. I couldn't go back to the apartment, so I went to my parents' house in Dilworth, the house I'd been avoiding for 19 months. Walking through that door felt like stepping into a memory. My mother's reading glasses still on the coffee table, my father's coffee mug in the dish rack, I sat on the floor and cried for my parents, for my marriage, for the person I'd been 6 days ago who'd believed a lottery ticket could save her. The court hearing was December 4th. Judge Hernandez reviewed the evidence, my testimony, the video, police reports, medical records. She interrupted Darren's public defender when he tried to argue I'd been provocative by refusing to share. Are you seriously arguing this woman provoked her husband into beating her badly enough to put her into premature labor, simply by refusing to hand over money she'd legally won? The judge granted me immediate divorce with sole custody and returned the lottery ticket to me as my sole property. The criminal trial was March 2021. It lasted 4 days. The prosecution played the video, and 2 jurors cried. The jury deliberated 90 minutes. Guilty on both assault counts. Darren got 12 years. Norma got 8. Renee got 5. On April 16, 2021, 6 months after I'd won, I walked into the NC Lottery Commission office and claimed my winnings. They cut me a check for $487,450 after taxes. I stared at it for a long time. This piece of paper that had cost me my marriage, my safety, 6 weeks of my baby's development. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival money, but it was mine, and I used it to build something safe. I paid off medical bills, $47,980 in full, set up trust funds for the boys, $100,000 each, renovated my parents' house into something livable. I named my sons in May, Patrick Daniel and Michael Jonathan Cole, Pat and Mike. They came home from NICU at 7 weeks old, tiny and colicky, and I was so sleep-deprived I hallucinated sometimes, but they were mine and safe. My Etsy business thrived. Apparently, the news coverage brought attention that translated to sales. By summer 2021, I was making $3,000 a month. I joined a domestic violence survivors support group, hired a part-time assistant, eventually opened a brick-and-mortar store in Plaza Midwood called Little Miracles. By 2023, life had found a rhythm. Pat and Mike were 2, talking and running everywhere, obsessed with trucks and dinosaurs. I'd been on a few dates, but nothing stuck. Trusting someone felt impossible. Darren sent a letter in August 2023, forwarded through my lawyer. 3 pages, apologetic, therapeutic sounding. I think about what I did every day. I can't believe that was me. I was drowning, Marion. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm sorry. I read it once, filed it away, never responded. Forgiveness wasn't something I owed him. On October 26, 2023, 3 years to the day, I took Pat and Mike to my parents' cemetery. We stood by the headstone, and I told them about their grandparents. They would have loved you so much, I said, voice cracking. Mike picked a dandelion and laid it on the grave, for Grandpa and Grandma. Driving home, I thought about that lottery ticket, how a $2 impulse buy had detonated and rebuilt my life. Would I trade it? The money for a different outcome, for a version where I never bought the ticket, never won, never got hit, never went into labor on concrete? I don't know. That's the honest answer. The money gave me security and independence, but it also showed me who Darren really was, revealed violence that might have emerged anyway, just slower. Maybe the lottery ticket didn't create the monster. Maybe it just gave him permission to stop hiding. What I know now, safety isn't about money or marriage or having the right answers. It's about trusting yourself enough to make the 911 call, even when your hands are shaking and your water's breaking and everything's falling apart. It's about believing you deserve to survive even when the people who promise to love you are dragging you by your hair toward a locked door. It's about building something new from wreckage and calling it home. My sons are 4 now. They don't remember any of this, thank God. They just know they're loved, safe, that their mother fights softly but doesn't break. That's enough. That's everything. If you've made it this far, if you've ever been told you provoked your own assault, or that money matters more than your safety, or that you should have known better than to trust the wrong person, I see you. You're not alone. Sometimes the treasure isn't the money. It's surviving to tell the story.